Right, so I wanted to come in here and there's no real plan for this video. This is like one of those just like kind of off the cuff ones. But I wanted to come in here, and sorry about that light, by the way, there's nothing really that I can do about that. There's probably enough light outside, but I don't really want to jinx it. I'd rather have decent lighting and deal with that than have bad lighting and, you know, I'd rather have a little bit of glare than not be than have like tons of shadow or like not be able to see my face. But yeah, today's video, the point of today's video, what I want to do is come in here and basically just kind of ramble a bit of like things that I've noticed about the way that I read. This can be both comic books and traditional novels, because I've been reading comics for a while, and you know, reading like traditional prose books has been more of a recent addiction, I would say. More of a recent kind of hobby or like thing that I've gotten into. That I'm really enjoying my kind of dive into reading fantasy specifically. Well, I've read a little bit of sci-fi now, so you know, I'm enjoying that world as well as the comic book stuff as well. But I wanted to come in here and just ramble a bit about what are some bad habits that I've gotten into over my several years of comic books and over my like year and a bit of reading novels. And the first thing is kind of the obvious, just taking on more than I can chew, or taking on more than I am probably able to at the time. Like, yeah, my first fantasy series was The Witcher, which I went in knowing a little bit about. I went in, like, I knew who Geralt was. I'd play a little bit of The Witcher 3. I'd watched The Witcher show. So I knew a little bit of what was going on. I did not expect it to be as that as it was. I wasn't expecting it to be I wasn't expecting it to have the kind of language that was used in it, and I don't mean swearing, I mean like I wasn't expecting it to have like the kind of purple prose that those kinds of fantasy books have. I wasn't expecting the sheer amount of essay that's in the book to be like at the forefront. I don't regret reading The Witcher, because by the end of the series I did learn to enjoy it. I did like get enjoyment out of it. It's just the several things in that there are several like chunks of that series that I just did not feel comfortable reading. And I think a lot of people are going to probably feel that. Like, I'm not the only person who feels a little bit uneasy reading abuse against women. And I don't like seeing that in day to day. I don't like it in my fantasy novels. It makes sense for the kind of world that is. It doesn't make it any easier to read. And then jumping into the Cosmere, every book is huge. Even like the first Mistborn trilogy, because I can't wait to get into Mistborn Era 2. Even if those books are not as good as Era 1, they're at least shorter. They're at least brief. They're at least easier to hold. And yeah, I could get into audiobooks, but the thing with audiobooks, especially now when the audiobook space is so turbulent, with like Audible getting sued, and things along those lines, which isn't a topic that I'm going to talk about in this video or probably any video. If you want me to talk about the Audible situation, ask me about it in a stream. Geeky streams over on Twitch. Cheap plug, but go over there. If you're watching me on here, you should be following me over there, unless you don't have Twitch. But yeah, just getting into the Cosmere in general, I thought, well, from things I'd seen elsewhere before I even started getting into books, was like Jacksepticeye talking about Stormlight Archive, and, and then I got deep into BookTube, and when I say that, I mean I just binged a load of Daniel Green videos. And that's kind of a bad habit that I've gotten into since then as well, is just watching videos on books that I either haven't read yet, or I plan to, or that I have upcoming. So yeah, that more my way of thinking now is just I want to try and go into everything as blind as I possibly can. I've got the Bloodsworn Saga down there. I've got some Warhammer stuff down there. And by some Warhammer stuff, I mean I have the Eisenhorn trilogy down there, big omnibus of it. And I want to go into those not knowing anything. All I know is that the Eisenhorn trilogy is a good starting on point. But the thing that I do, which is a really bad habit, and I do it with movies, I do it with games, I do it with everything. But with games, it's usually when I start playing a game, I'll start then watching a load of content on that game that I'm playing. The same thing with movies, it's usually when a certain superhero movie comes out on a character that I don't already read or don't already have a connection to. If I enjoy that movie, I'll then go and start reading whatever new run is about that character. I was doing that already when I went to see Superman, but that movie made me get deep into Superman. The same with Fantastic Four. That movie made me really want to seek out more Fantastic Four stuff. Which, I mean, that's a win for those films, but it's also not a win on my wallet. And that's the same with got into books, and then as soon as I got into books, I was watching everybody's top 10 fantasy lists. So I was watching a load of top 10 authors, a lot of top 10 this, a lot of talking about the Cosmere. Here's the reading order for the Cosmere, and here's 17 different people talking about their Cosmere reading order, and that is I would consider that, for me personally, a bad habit, because when I start doing that, the more likely I am to step into spoilers. And yeah, that's kind of where the bad habit kind of comes in. The other thing is just buying 300 things at once. For example, when Marvel did their big Marvel Now push, and even whenever there's a new relaunch, I always like to go in and try out a new number one, whatever character it is, whatever kind of whatever side of the Marvel and DC pond it is. I like going in and trying out a new number one. That means my pull list is way too big for my budget. So yeah, that's another really bad habit that I have, is just picking up every number one or kind of like going in with the intention of I want to read everything. And that's kind of what Marvel and DC kind of instill in you, because they're like, everything's important, everything's going to connect to this big event that's going to happen in the middle of the year. So you have to be reading everything to understand everything that's going on in that. Or at least like that's a mentality I have to get out of. Because it's not true. Because not everything connects to the big events. It just feels that way a lot of the time. And that's kind of a big reason why people don't get into comics. There's a big reason why it does look so... It does look so intimidating and daunting as someone who has never picked up a comic book before, to go in and be like, where do I start? I don't have a good answer for that. I did do a video on that, but I don't have a good answer for it. I don't have a like perfect answer for it anyway. When it comes to the like novel side, you know, I haven't finished Stormlight yet, but I have the Bloodsworn Saga down now. I have Eisenhorn. I have the Ascendants, which I read in the middle. You know, I bought Stormlight knowing, right, I'll read Stormlight. And then I heard, oh yeah, it's part of the Cosmere. You have to read all this other stuff as well. So then I bought Mistborn. So I had Mistborn and I had Stormlight on the back burner as well. My TBR keeps getting bigger and bigger because I keep seeing things that I really enjoy, or things that sound like I'm going to really enjoy them, because I keep watching keep watching top 10 lists, and I keep watching like content from other booktube. I'm not a part of that space. I don't consider myself a part of that space. Content creators. And, you know, I really like that there is a community there, and I really like that I've found a passion for this stuff, but it's it's like, whoa, that's a lot. I kind of have gone in here and I'm like, oh, that's a lot. The kind of like the thing that kind of like sparked this kind of thing for me to want to do this video is something that I've noticed that isn't really even a big, compared to everything else that I've talked about, this isn't even a big bad habit. It just is the one that's probably most specific to me that I do, specifically to do with reading books. And what I do, and it completely spawned from the idea of, or it completely spawned from, I read books on the bus when I'm going out to like do my shopping or whatever. I read books on the bus. So what I got into the habit of doing is checking how many pages are in the chapter, or checking how many pages are in the chapter that I'm going to be starting. Initially with the idea of am I going to have time to finish this chapter before I have to get off the bus. I haven't been able to just read a chapter without knowing how many pages are in it since like halfway through Blood of Elves, which is the third book that I ever read. So that's a year ago. So I've gone a year of every book that I've read. I've been like, how many pages? How many pages of this? how many pages till the end of this chapter? Oh, that's a quick chapter. I'll get through it. Oh, 20 pages. Oh, that's gonna be a no from me, Chief. I'll put it away. Just go on my phone for the rest of the bus journey. I don't know if that's a bad habit or what, but it's just something that it really annoys me that I do that. But because then I'm like tempted to read ahead as well, and it's like I don't, but that, you know, possible spoiler town there, you know, with doing that. And that was actually something that I did with with The Hero of Ages. I started looking ahead for when the chapter ends, and the one bit that I read is such and such got clobbered in the head, and his head fell off. It was like a main character. And I was like, oh, well, now I need to go through the rest of this book knowing that a main character dies at the end of it. And they're like, oh. I apologise. Yeah. That being said, those are kind of my big bad habits when it comes to books, comic books, reading, all that stuff. Let me know in the comments below if you get anything out of this video, if you agree, disagree, whatever. If these are things that you can relate to as well. But yeah, I'll hopefully you enjoyed. Hopefully there's something that resonated with you in this video anyways. This isn't me necessarily judging anyone for doing the same things that I do. It's just, you know, I have these personal bad habits when it comes to every hobby that I enjoy. It usually is the stuff that I've talked about in this, outside of the checking ahead to see how many pages are in chapter. I don't do that with anything else. But everything else in this video is pretty interchangeable. You know, started getting into Disney Lorcana, and now I'm like, every time that I have the opportunity, I'm like thinking, oh, I'm going to go into my comic book shop. I'll put a little bit of money aside to pick up some packs as well. That's just the kind of person that I am. It's just the kind of mentality that I have. And maybe it's good, maybe it's bad, I don't know. But it's just, you know, I've just kind of got this super like consumerist mindset, despite being the kind of person that over in my streams, I'm actively telling people not to spend money on in-game purchases in video games, even though I understand that it's a little bit hypocritical, me saying that, but then, you know, this video is just meant to be a bit fun. Anyway, so yeah, I will see you guys in the next video. Hopefully you enjoyed. Hopefully you get something out of this, I guess. Let me know in the comments below if you do the same things that I do. Yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.